I also enjoyed the expo for meeting people and even hugged a few people as well.
I was proud of you. What I want to kidnap, Bob.
Both during roleplay said to me, "Did you mean to make that mistake?" And PDIs out there need to stop saying that to their trainers because yes, we meant to make the mistake. I'm really good at driving, I promise.
I can't say this sentence, but no poo, Sherlock.
When Chris sent this question, I was like, "You bastard."
Imagine kind of a quarter-sized bungalow, and this bungalow is...
And I put the gas on, and I went...
Inspire Instructor Training Podcast, where the learning never stops. Welcome to the Inspire Instructor Training Podcast. We have a slightly new format now. I decided that you weren't getting enough of me and Diana with our Facebook Lives and our Zoom sessions and just generally being all over Facebook. So I decided that now the Inspire Instructor Training Podcast will be me and Diana talking even more. So welcome, Diana.
Thank you. Might need subtitles.
Yeah, so we are going to have some regular format points on the podcast. So each week we're going to be answering a question. This week we have a question provided by Chris Bensted. And each week we're also going to be dissecting a story from a driving instructor. And again, this week we have a story from Chris Bensted. But I do want you guys to also ask questions and send us stories. So if you have a funny story or if a story from the podcast sparks a memory, please send it to us and then we can use it on the podcast. And same with questions. If you have a question you want me and Diana to talk about, it doesn't even have to be a question, just something you want us to talk about, then please send it to us and we can chat about it on the podcast. But before we do all of that, how have you been this week, Diana?
Yeah, good. We've had... I feel like it's been a busy week because at the end of the month is our let's put more courses on to Inspire, which is great. So we've been working on that and we just need to do the final tweaks. We have a sitting in on a lesson coming up. So like it's just been quite bitty with all the different courses. We had a backlog of intelligent instructor videos to do. And of course, we had to prep for the expo. So, yeah, there was a lot going on this week, but it's all been nice. It's all been good, and I had an influx of new starters because as much as I enjoyed my summer term off, not off, but reduced hours, I had an influx of new starters. So, halfway through September, there was a big chunk out of my diary for them also. So that was bad planning on my part. What
Yeah,
about
it
you?
has been a bit crazy this week. I am definitely feeling it. So from post doing the expo and just haven't stopped since
Mm.
basically. So yeah, I'm definitely feeling it. My throat is feeling it. I've definitely got that got a sore throat going on. How did you find the expo?
Oh, I loved the expo. I absolutely loved it. Um, I love seeing the people that we see regularly and often, but not quite often enough, but that that we've connected with. I love seeing our members. Um, I felt that I never got enough time with anybody. Felt like, it felt like going back home. When I go back home to Scotland and I have so many people to see, and I really wanted quality time with everyone, but I felt like I really just got surface time with everyone. So, that was one thing. But I loved all the hugs. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a hugger. I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed that. Um, I was really, really proud of Stuart as well, who really pushed himself out of his comfort zone at the expo because he was manning our stand whilst we did our talk, and I loved the talk as well. I was really, really pleased with the turnout, um, with the fact that we got some really engaging questions at the end, and everybody seemed to like it. So fingers crossed.
Hello, we got pretty good feedback. Yeah, I really enjoyed the talk actually. I think particularly the topic we did, it was good fun. But I think also last year I was probably like quite nervous going into that because it was the first time I proper doing a presentation. Whereas this year, because we've done all the workshops and Zooms and all these other things we've done over this last year, it's been a very crazy year. Um, I I didn't feel nervous at all. I was just even just stood up in front of people waiting for Stuart to tell us to kick off. I wasn't nervous at all. I was just ready to go and just then enjoyed it. And I think you absolutely smashed it. So it was fun watching you do that. So yeah, that was really good. I also enjoyed the expo for meeting people and even hugged a few people as well. Um,
I was proud of you.
I had I had a very surreal moment, I remember. Yeah, and I sort of kind of again think back to, like I said, this year's been crazy, but I think back to probably the expo maybe 2 years ago. Um, I remember Terry presenting for the first time that year. He was doing his podcast. And Chris was in the room and Bob was in the room, and I didn't really know either of them. In fact, I didn't know either of them. I remember going up to say hello to Chris because I'd heard him on the podcast and he'd said, "Come and say hello, tell me your name," like he always does. And then I remember Bob walking out of the room, and I remember actually being too scared to go and say hello to Bob. And he was walking away, and I didn't want to interrupt him. I think his wife was there as well. So I didn't want to interrupt him. And then I remember this year at our stand at one point, Bob, Chris, Terry, I think Fiona was there as well, all just having a conversation. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, what is our life now? And so yeah, it was very strange and but lovely because I love the fact that they all came over and said hello and had some good chats and used our stand as a little hiding place, I think, at times.
Yeah, I absolutely loved that as well because every single one of those people are so special and just but again, I don't think I had enough time. I want to kidnap Bob. I just want to keep him like close by at all times because he's hilarious, bloody good at what he does, and is just dead down to earth. Terry, I think, in fact, I've gone down a rabbit hole. Do you know what? I was about to say name everybody and give their qualities, and I thought, oh gosh, this is going to be a rabbit hole.
That'll take a while and you'll miss someone and they'll get really annoyed. Yeah.
Exactly. But I started with Terry, so I'm going to finish with Terry. But Terry's just a genuine quality person that absolutely has like everybody's best interests at heart.
Yeah. You can't help but like him. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's move on then to something I want to do each week because um I think that it's important that we talk about positives within the industry. What are your, and it might relate back to what we just talked about, but what are your positives for this week?
Positives. I have a couple of positives actually. So the expo is up there for me. Because for all the lovely reasons that I said, and there was a lot of firsts for us in the fact that we had our own stand, and it felt more structured in our approach to going to the expo this year. I think from a personal point of view, I've been to the gym 2 times already this week, and it's only Wednesday, and like I really did not want to go on Monday, so I think that was a positive for me. And I'm noticing the reason I'm bringing that up is I'm noticing the effect that then has on my lessons. I'm in a better mood. Like when I have been to the gym, I'm got those lovely endorphins. I'm stronger. I can fit in the seat better, which is always positive. And so yeah, I think I'm onto a winner with that at the moment. And also, Terry and I had a lovely little chat because he mentioned us on his unplugged episode, and I thought that was a real positive as well. With his reflections on the industry, and it was something I very much shared with him as well.
Like then, I think the gym one, I think we both on that Monday morning, we're like, yeah, I really don't want to go to the gym, but I did.
Yeah.
And they're possibly the best sessions because even though it might not be the best session, the fact you went is a win. My positives, obviously, again, like Expo, I think was immense and really enjoyed it. I wasn't sure how I was going to enjoy it in a different way because obviously we had the stand, but actually it was just as good. In fact, if anything, maybe even better because people had a place to come and find us. I my other positives actually, I've had two really good PDI sessions this week where the PDIs like had light bulb moments and made a nice little jump forward, using just trying different techniques out and the workings. So that's quite nice. Um, but we're gonna also have negatives each week because I think it's important to reflect back on shitty stuff too.
Yeah.
So mine this week, and I'm actually, well, I was going to say my throat, 'cause my throat is really sore from the expo and talking to people constantly. But actually, I think I'm going to go back to both of the same PDIs who've actually had massive light bulb moments, have both during role play this week said to me, and I said this on the Facebook Live, um, both during role play said to me, "Did you mean to make that mistake?" And PDIs out there need to stop saying that to their trainers because yes, we meant to make the mistake. I'm really good at driving, I promise. And so when I'm going flying out into the junction without looking, yeah, I meant to do that on purpose. I didn't do it. If
I was
I'm
gonna say, yeah, I don't know how you could do that on roleplay.
No, I if I am driving over the white line, yeah, it wasn't an accident. So yeah, it's just funny, and I get it. It's weird. Role play's weird, and it's awkward. And I always say to them actually, even if I didn't mean to mention it, because I'll go with it. I'll go with the role and pretend that I did it on purpose. So.
Oh, I bet you would.
So yeah, that's my negative. Stop telling me I'm rubbish at driving.
Oh, I actually, you've just prompted me on the fact my negative, poor Stuart, although I was singing his praises at the expo, he's suffering quite badly with sciatica and he paid quite heavily for having, stood at the stand all day. So on the way back, actually, he insisted on driving, which was a mistake in hindsight. And we ended up having to pull over in a lay-by and swap because he just wasn't fit for driving. I think his sciatica triggered a migraine, and then he was pretty much out of action for the whole of the next day. So that's been a bit of a juggle, if you like. I think he's getting on the mend now, hopefully. But this has just been quite long standing. But because of that, you've triggered a memory. Might have even been this morning coming away from the gym, and he spotted a mistake. And obviously, I'm training him and doing different bits and pieces with him, but and it wasn't on purpose at all. There was a reason. I didn't signal off the exit for the roundabout, and there was a reason why I didn't signal. There was a reason why I didn't signal. There was traffic backed up, and I didn't want to confuse things. And there was an actual reason why I did contemplate it, but yeah, that was definitely a one-upmanship on him because he it's usually the other way around. And like you though, I just went with it. I was like, yeah, fair enough. I'm only human. Yeah. I mean, although I do keep adding to these stories of driving tales.
Yep. I still refuse to get in the car with you. Based on all your
I'm
stuff.
really not that bad.
So let's move on to our question time. So, like I said earlier, if any of you guys have a question you want me and Diana to talk about, please send it in. Or just message me that you want to do it, and then I'll talk you through how to send us a question. So let's listen to the lovely Mr. Bensted and his question.
Hi guys, Chris Bensted here from Theory Test Explained, and my question for you is: in your time as a driving instructor, what is the thing that you have invested in, spent money on, really wanted, and it's turned out to be the biggest waste of money or time? that you could have just done without? Was it a training course that just didn't tick your boxes, or a folder of diagrams? Whatever it might be, I'd love to hear about it.
Would you like to go first?
I think I've made a couple of expensive blunders, if you like. The one that is jumping out at me, hope I don't offend anybody with this, um, is the driving instructor's teaching aid. So I got the whole big bundle. Um, and I wanted, to be honest, I wanted the book, the diagrams and stuff because it gave like prompting questions. And I think I bought it as a PDI or a newly qualified ADI. I can't remember. Um, but I bought it because I wanted prompts of the things that I should be covering. And that's fine. I still use the sometimes the teaching manual, whatever, just habitually sometimes. But it came with a book where it was fault analysis, and it was what's happened, the consequences, and the analysis. And it also came with a book of reference points, both of which are beyond useless, like absolutely beyond useless. And it was, I liked the idea of the fault analysis, to be honest with you. I liked with the fact that they haven't just said, you missed your left mirror, and it's not just like one solution to it. They have a few, but it's very much like, so you missed your left mirror, your right mirror. Um, what could the consequences be? So it tells you what to ask. And then it says, right, what is the solution or something like that? And then it goes, yes, you could hit a car. You could hit that motorbike. And it just felt like, I can't say this sentence, but no poo Sherlock is basically what I was. I mean, it just wasn't great. And it's huge. It's like this. No, I think you can't say it. It's huge. The reference points, I went down a rabbit hole where somebody insisted that I teach them. So I got the book and I couldn't make head nor tail of it. I couldn't understand what it was telling me. And it had pictures from an instructor's view, and it had pictures of the driver's view. I remember trying to use it as a PDI. And ironically, the pupil said to me this was the moment she knew that I was the instructor for her, because the pair of us spent about an hour trying to do a bay park and try to use these reference points. And eventually I went, right, that's enough. That's enough. We've all had enough of this now. And she said that was the moment she realised that I was human and that I was right up her street, where like I persevered and then went, no, no, we're calling it a day now, because I couldn't understand it. I couldn't get it in any way, shape, or form. I didn't understand it.
It was really, really fascinating, and I absolutely don't want to also like there's when Chris sent this question, I was like, "You bastard," because I didn't want to be negative about anyone, and because we're not negative people. But what's also quite interesting is we have not shared each other's answers, and my answer is exactly the same as yours. It's the same. I didn't get the reference book one, but I did have the whole big book, and
It's funny.
yeah, no, it's crazy. But I want to put a huge caveat on this because it isn't just that particular book. It's all books like that that I don't like. So it's not their book, it's not their issue. It's not my style. Now, I can see how a PDI particularly would want all of that content and then be able to like help them deliver that to a learner. So I do see the benefit from a PDI's point of view, and I've got instructors who work for me who love those sort of books actually as well, and even bought some at the expo that are similar. But for me, I want like a blank canvas. I want a blank canvas to play around with, whether that is an app with just like stuff that I can show pupils and draw on and things like that. Or whether it's like Fiona Taylor's um, diagrams with the toy cars to play around with. That for me creates better coaching conversations, better exploration from the pupils. Like when they have the information written out in front of them that says mirror, signal, position, speed, look, as you're going down it, it's hard to say to them, how do you think you would do this junction? Because they'll just go, oh, it says there, mirrors. And there's no learning happening. They're just reading off a piece of paper. So I think that's my issue with them.
Hmm.
But I do get why maybe a PDI who maybe hasn't got that information just like stored in their head likes it there as like a backup as well. Possibly why I bought it when I was
Yeah.
in that situation. I think I've bought it. I think I've bought, well, actually, when I first started, I had the BSM ones, very similar. And then I think I bought one like that partly because I wanted to see if I think it was when I was becoming a trainer and I wanted to see if it would be helpful for PDIs, but it wasn't for me. But I don't necessarily think it's not for everyone. I just think that's not my style. The
Yeah.
other thing when Chris asked this question, I instantly sort of went workshops and courses and stuff like that and had a think back through the bazillion workshops and courses I've been on over the years. And I actually think I think pretty much I couldn't really pinpoint one that I didn't take
Hmm.
information on. Um, some obviously better than others. The but for me, none of them were not worthwhile going on because even the worst course or the worst workshop where I feel like I already know all this or something like that and didn't really gain anything from it, I still felt like I always either took one nugget away from it or maybe even just sometimes I learn about people's presenting styles. I've been on a couple of training days where I've watched the trainer like talk about themselves a bit too much, like during the day. And I've gone, okay, I'm not going to do that. But I'm like, because the person, because they don't see it from the other person's perspective, going, hey, I'm paying to be here. Stop chatting about your life. Like, train me. And so yeah, I think I've always learned something, even if it's sometimes like don't present like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I never sort of kind of see them as like not worthwhile.
I did learn one thing from it. I remember teaching a guy, he would never check behind like the center mirror. He'd never check it in any circumstances. And I looked up this fault in this book and it gave me like a couple of it was like they may just forget. Right, okay. But then there was another one that said maybe used to riding a motorbike. And I'd said to him, I said, have you ever ridden a motorbike? And he was like, yeah. And that was a bit of a light bulb moment for me at that time. Um, but then actually, it would be the same with a van. And I think they should have put that in as well. Do you know what I mean? Or, again, expanded it. And I think that was the point. We say all the time about digging deeper. And I think as a PDI, that I saw that as a bit of a light bulb moment. And it's only through my own connections I've made that a deeper process.
That's quite interesting because I think that's what I was saying earlier. Like I think for a PDI, that sometimes those little prompts at the side are what is needed and helpful. I just for me, I think I'd rather you went and learned that stuff and then put it into your lessons in a
Yeah.
more organic way sometimes. I think sometimes having it there in front of you actually hinders the conversation. But again, it's how you use it.
Yeah.
So we're now going on to story time. Everyone's sitting comfortably. Get a cup of cocoa. It's time for story time. Um, so I asked Chris for a story, and Chris, being Chris, over delivered as always, and sent me two stories. So, do you want the amusing story or the educational story first?
Oh, I'm gonna go amusing because I feel like we've slated stuff and I feel like we need a little bit of light humor.
Okay. I'm also going to put this out to everyone that Diana hasn't heard this yet.
No.
So you are reacting blind to this story.
So I was on a driving lesson, driving around one of our local towns. And in this town, there is this tiny little building. If you imagine kind of a quarter-sized bungalow. And this bungalow is an adult entertainment shop. Anyway, we were driving down, we were going past it next to the station, and the guy was locking up, and my pupil said something, and I said, "Oh, that's Bill." And I gave him a wave, and he waved back, and carried on. Anyway, we laughed about it, and I dismissed it. I thought, that's the end of that. Until next time I drove past, and the man that will forever be known as Bill waved at me unprompted. So I waved back. And every time I drove past this adult entertainment shop, this guy would wave at me and I'd wave back. And the pupils would give me a very funny look and wonder, how we were acquainted, and ask if I knew him. I insisted I didn't, but next time we drove past, he'd wave again. Yeah, he consistently waved. I used the best excuse that I could, which was that my business partner was a regular client of theirs, so he knew me that way. I've never told Ian that was the case, but maybe he'll listen to this and find out. Anyway, so yeah, be careful who you wave to. They might wave back.
Oh, that's quite funny.
I love that story. I also feel like that is the sort of thing you would do to me and throw me under the bus as well.
Oh, I absolutely would. I
If
absolutely.
listening, please tag Ian in on this. I feel like he needs to know. Yeah, it
Oh, I
wasn't
love that.
clear as well during that story until about halfway through that Chris didn't know the guy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It sounded like he just sort of like randomly, yeah, like knew him or knew somebody around him. Yeah, exactly. Oh, that was funny.
So I feel like the moral of the story is don't random wave at random people.
I mean, I don't think I do.
No, no, I don't.
Although I do, I think I have said before, I do randomly wave at vehicles with stuff on them. Like I wave at the police, I wave at Domino's, I wave at a hearse. That's the worst that I've waved at. I waved at a hearse. Yeah, that wasn't, it was bad enough, but the guy in the back waved back. I'm joking, he didn't.
Wow. That does remind me of a story actually, because I remember on a driving lesson once, this hearse went past and a couple of cars went past, and then my pupil launched out. We were waiting at a mini roundabout, and this was when I was teaching auto, and my pupil saw their gap and hit the gas before I had a chance to do or say anything. And we were now in the procession.
Yeah,
And I was
I've had
like,
that.
please take the next road on the left. Please take the next road on the left. And like
Yeah,
dived
yeah,
out.
yeah, that happened to me. I literally went hearse, grieving family, learner car, grieving family. It was awful. Awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was driving a big bright orange car at the time as well. So shall we listen to Chris's educational story?
Yes.
The moral of the story. I do like Chris's storytelling. He's
Oh, it's
very
fabulous.
very Jackanory.
I'm going to tell you a story, and the moral of the story is you don't know unless you ask. So we were driving down a country road on a driving lesson, myself and a young lady called Beth, and there was a double-decker bus coming the other way. I have no idea why there was a double-decker bus coming down this country lane, because it definitely wasn't appropriate for it, but it was coming the other way. So we dealt with it. She made some funny noises while I chewed on the hedgerow, and we tried not to make eye contact with the bus driver. We squeezed in, they squeezed through. It wasn't fun, but we made it. It was all good. I definitely didn't enjoy it. I'm fairly certain she didn't enjoy it from the noises she was making. And, I could have just assumed what was it, that was the problem. Big bus, little road. It was too tight. You know, it was quite intimidating. something made me ask the question. And this taught me that you always need to ask the question. So I said, that was fun. What was it you didn't like about that situation? And she said, more people judging me. So it was nothing to do with the size of the bus or the tightness of the situation, the pressure that I was feeling squeezing past that bus. It was that that bus was full of people all watching her out the window. And what was great about that was it told me where the issues were going to be on test day, when she had another pair of eyes watching and judging.
Mm.
It told me that she was far more worried when there were people around, so it helped me target things. But the biggest lesson that I learnt from that was, if you don't ask, you can't mind read. However good you think you are, you're not necessarily seeing things through the same eyes. So yes, she passed. It was all good. We got her through, but I think she still responds to the pressure negatively when she is under scrutiny.
I love that actually.
I also get it, Andrew, as well, because
Yeah.
I think I'm sure we've had scenarios where we're in a bit of a muddle with a bus nearby, and you've suddenly got all these people staring at you, even if they don't know how to drive themselves.
I have another road collision incident with a busload.
See, I feel like we could have a whole feature on the podcast about your road collision incidents.
So I was on holiday in Cyprus, I think. Oh, all of these, I must say, all of these incidents were years and years and years ago, and I have learned from them. And I've only just realised that this was a road collision accident. And I shouldn't laugh because nothing happened other than I got hurt. But basically, we decided to hire a moped in Cyprus, and the moped shop was like outside the pickup point for the hotels to go on some excursion or whatever. And I decided to pick up this moped in flip-flops, tankini, and a chiffon dress. And I mean, honestly, it beggars belief. And yeah, I couldn't ride a bike, couldn't ride a bicycle at all. Like I had no balance, no control over it, never been able to do it. So of course I get on this bike. And I mean, it was awful. And I literally was doing moving off and stopping. And I put the gas on and I went, I literally went across the road and fell over in front of a whole busload of people. And that was exactly what was going through my head. And I was absolutely battered, because like the thing landed on my leg and, I was all bruised and stuff. But the whole busload of tourists, I mean, it was Cyprus, they must have been 18, 19, 20 maximum, but all absolutely howling at me. Like, there was zero sympathy. And the guy from the bike shop literally just went, yeah, you're not hiring a bike.
I think the favorite part of my story was the noise you made when your impression of a bike moving off. Um, okay, I think we're going to wrap it up there. Like I said to everyone, if you have a question or if you have a story, please, or if you've ever been stared at by a bunch of people on a bus, please let us know, and we can use your story on the podcast. Um, did we haven't mentioned our workshops coming up?
Yep. So we've got two workshops coming up. We have our part three in standards check focus workshop, which is called 9.5 Simple Steps to Pass Your Part 3 and Your Standards Check. We have that online. So it's 9 to 4 on Monday, the 14th of October. There'll be a couple of breaks during that. It's an interactive session, so it's not us just talking at you, but it's also an opportunity for you really to um, focus your attention on those individual steps. It's going to get you that pass mark. and it's online, as I said. Our second workshop that I would like to highlight is We're Only Human workshop, prioritizing the pupil, not the topic. And that is on the 6th of November. 9 till 5. Again, there's going to be a couple of breaks during that as well. This workshop we have delivered around the UK, and it has been our in-person workshop, which we have worked tirelessly to tweak so that it has the same wow factor, even though it's going to be online. And if you want to check that out, we have some fantastic reviews and feedback for that one. And I'm anticipating the same. Is that cheeky? Should I say I'm anticipating the same for the part 3 and standards check one? But we've ran it past a few people, and it has got a bit of a wow factor as well. So really, really looking forward to delivering them shortly.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Inspiring Instructor Training Podcast, where the learning never stops.